Hey folks, I'm Will Jessup, and I'm here with Daniel Ulibarri. Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your mine?
So our mine is located in Spain, and it's one of the only mines in the world that produces perfect pyrite cubic crystals. So this that you're seeing here is just a pyrite crystal that has not been cut, polished. This is how we find them in our mine. So that's what makes them really special. They're approximately 130, 140 million years old. So we have to chip away the limestone for them to, for us to find them. So for example, like we just took this one out for the first time. You can see this crystal. There's a lot of specimens in our mine that are not fully formed.
Do you want to
perfect crystals?
So we pull that out.
Let's see. This one may need a little bit of more work. Yeah, this one's still. Okay. Yeah. So this will be like the common denominator in our deposit, right?
Yeah.
Cubes that are not necessarily perfect crystals. There's because they just grew differently. They have different temperature changes, and they're not perfect cubes. Also, there's gonna be times when they get damaged, either when through the plate tectonic movements, there's some cracks, but also at the extraction time, we can damage them. So that's gonna reduce the value of the crystals. There's also many times when the crystals are touching each other, and this is an important thing to remember, because when they're touching, they separate. They're never bonded. But if we extract them really, really carefully, we can get some of the most aesthetic specimens from our deposit. There are also some that are sharing molecules that we call intergrowns that have molecules completely bonded. So for example, this crystal that I have here now is going to be an intergrown. That means the molecules of the two crystals are sharing, but they keep their pattern of growth. So that's also one of the things that's going to be good to remember when we're looking at the pricing of our specimens. Then once we get in the areas with the perfect cubes, that's where we stop and take our time, because those have been the ones that have been considered the most valuable.
Okay, cool. So let's actually talk prices for this. Starting at the sort of base level quality, what is an object? What do these sell for?
So it's hard to put a value, but they still have a value as an individual piece, because they're so special. That, they can go from like $5 to $10 to $15, even when damaged $20.
So as it comes to the second quality, we've picked out 3 examples of different forms and different size. So walk us through why this is second quality.
This is a specimen that has good luster, beautiful structure, but it has a damage. So this automatically we will put it in the second category. Yeah, same thing on this one.
And let's talk about price. What do those go for?
Yeah, specimens like this, they will range between $5 to $10. In stores. That's what we'll be able to find them for. And even when they're a second category, they're still very interesting. You can still position them in a way that the damage is hidden. So they can get away with great aesthetics if you know how to position your crystals. So this category here is actually one of my favorite ones. And these are what you already talked about, intergrowns. What makes these ones really, really special is that you're seeing intersections between the crystals that form the craziest shapes. Every one of them is different, and they're completely perfect. So there's not going to be any damage in any of the edges or the faces of the crystals.
So what's the price on these intergrowns?
When you have intergrowns, the shape of the crystal sometimes is really cool, and they can go for a premium. So even though they're small, specimens like this, can go between $50 to $60, all the way to 100 to 200, depending on how cool the formation is.
So if this was an individual cube of this size, not intergrown, how much would that be?
Yeah, it would be a specimen that would be around $5.
Just for a perfect?
Just $5 for a little one to $10. But perfect one.
A level.
Yeah, you can still get, because this is little. Once you get to the bigger size, like if it was like this, then it'll be different.
Let's talk about that. So if this was perfect,
if this is perfect, then you start getting around the $20 to $30 range. On it.
All right. So we've got another concept that's not intergrown, right? Let's describe what these guys are.
So these specimens we're seeing here are what we call the clusters or groupings. There's something that we have to do for them to look like this. That means we have to find the point of attachments when we find them, they're together, but they came apart. They were never bonded. They don't break. They just have these beautiful points of intersection that we're able to put back together like a puzzle. The reason being is that, these are completely bonded. We still have to manipulate this one. But if they we're able to find one where a lot of pieces click in,
Yep.
that's where the price point just goes more higher, which is specimens like this.
So let's talk about the price point of clusters.
Yeah, so specimens like this, they'll be, in the store for around $25, $30.
Okay.
Remember we were saying the integrals were, between 50, 60, 80.
Okay.
It can really go up.
Okay. So we've got another concept to introduce, which is pyrites on matrix. So everything we've seen up to this point has been individual cubes separated from matrix, but that's not all that we have in the world of pyrites.
So these ones, we will be able to pull them out. We have to do a lot of prep work, and we have to stabilize them so that they stay in their place. Otherwise, they will just come off. So these ones actually will be more expensive, that we found, one of the similar size.
So let's talk about the price of each, and then talk about if this was a cluster or twinned at each sort of price size.
This will be the smaller size that we keep in matrix. If we go smaller, it will not make any economic sense. Price point of these ones, rack shops, will be between $20 and $30 for this size. Okay. When we move to the next size up, once you put them next to each other, there's going to be a significant difference. This is probably about half a cent. The price point of these specimens, it goes between $40 to $60.
And if it was intergrown,
then you can probably 3 to 4 times more.
Okay. Let's go to the top tier, right? Our top tier, maybe call it 8A class or whatever it is. So we have the smaller twin ones, and how much were these again?
They can go around 50, 60.
50. Mm-hmm. And this one, the retail, I see a sticker on there. But these are, what are these?
You can get a specimen that will be, $50, $60 versus.
Let's just show the price. That's good.
Versus one that's completely flawless.
And I think this one's like $300 probably.
Yeah, so they're really, really neat. Just, perfect points of intersection between them.
Okay, so we're talking about clusters on matrix.
Yes.
And this is a crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, so what I really love about this specimen, it's a beautiful cluster with matrix, so it makes a wonderful sculpture. Unfortunately, this one, it's not the top tier quality, but the shape is amazing. If we were to find specimens with this, sculptural look, flawless, the price really, really goes much higher. You're talking, that you go to the 5 digits on specimens like this.
What would this one be priced at? Do you know? Because
yes,
we know that it has some damage.
So this one with damage, even though there's got some visible flaws, this is a specimen that could still reach between $5,000, around $5,000 for a specimen like this. The specimens with excellent aesthetics, they can go from 10 to all the way to. One of the records, I cannot say where it's sold or who had it, but we're above $150,000 for one of our specimens.
Killer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, which for a pyrite specimen, it's a good value. Yeah, the coolest thing about our specimens is that a lot of these specimens that go to the best collections, people can put them next to specimens that are worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, but they still get compliments, on their pyrite from Navajún, Spain.
Nice. Awesome. We'd love to know what other questions you have about pyrite crystals and collecting. I think we did a good job of, covering the basics here, but let us know if you have comments, questions. Daniel, dude, thank you, man.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for coming.
Great. Okay. All right.